has a very, very enchained legacy, if you will, in covering up and not being true to its traditions. Science is not a God. It's the people writing their versions of science. And the same way that you experience in the historical text, it is certainly rampant in the biological and chemical text, and certainly in when you speak about these points. So, coming back to the central point, that when Cheikh Anta Diop, in his book Civilization of Barbarism, speaks about the development of the Cro-Magnon type as being the emergence of the Caucasian community from their black Hottentot parents, which he does say. And he identifies the location at which this took place in Basque, Spain. And it took place between 20 and 25,000 years ago. That's right in Cheikh Anta Diop's Civilization of Barbarism. And he said that as the glaciers began to recede, that the Cro-Magnon Caucasoids went north with the glacier. They liked the ice. They had become conditioned to it. They moved north into Scandinavia, and then they went east into Russia, and further east into some parts further in near Asia. And then they turned south and invaded Greece. Hear what I'm saying? Invaded Greece and invaded India. And then came back around through what is called the Middle East, so-called Lebanon and Israel, and invaded Kemet. But notice what was said in the 9th dynasty about Egyptian pharaoh in Margaret Lightman's book, Ancient Egyptian Literature, said this, that this pharaoh in the 9th dynasty, during a time of turmoil, says, oh, lo, there go the lowly Asiatics. They come from the mountaintops. They have their hands outstretched, they're hungry, and they have been fighting since the time of Horus, meaning that these people come from mountain regions. They have a paranoid mentality. They have a greedy mentality. They're starved, literally, and they're always fighting. They called them Asiatics not because they originated in Asia, but because that's where we saw them first appear, when they came out of Asia, but they had started off farther back than that in the western regions of Eurasia, in the areas near the junction of France and Spain. So that's a little bit of the background. So we have another line. We have history, biology, and chemistry all crisscrossing the same thing. That somebody with a different kind of consciousness, with a different eye for Peru, came in to our home, and he was paranoid, he was violent, and he was hungry. And he's been that way for a long, long time. So that was said before 2000 BC. And we knew his condition. Now, furthermore, it raised a question that when we look into another book that is called Thoth, the Hermes of Egypt by Bolin. Now I'm going to stop being the lecturer, and now I'm going to be the school teacher. Thoth, the Hermes of Egypt by Bolin, it is said that Set used to not be a negative god. It was a god of the south. But following the invasion of the Hyksos, that the attributes of Set, which used to be positive, were then transferred to Jehudi or Thoth, and Set became labeled as the devil. And anybody with red skin was considered Set-like. I'm going to understand that. Somebody with very fair skin came through the desert, got sunburned, and they were paranoid, they were violent, and they were hungry. So we said, oh yeah, those red skin, sunburned skin means you have this kind of condition. You are devilish. So we began to equate, we began to look at a cosmic issue of the balancing of dark, light and dark, not which weren't originally considered good and evil. That was just the forces of nature. And we began to see the expression of a person who lacked moral strength, if you will, who couldn't keep their Sethian condition in focus. Their Sethian condition was wild and wicked. It was running the show, and it wasn't being balanced by Ma'at. If anything, it was in a celebration of Sethian ideals that they were involved in. Some people love blood. Some people love violence. Despite what they might say, some people get off with what we call a sadistic nature. Jeffrey Dahmer loved it. I'm temporary in North Carolina, and a guy down there ate up his best friend and his girlfriend. He came in on him. He had people's genitalia inside of a jar. That's not new news. There are many people who are necrophiliacs. There are many people who are cannibals. And again, the game of history is to do what? Is to take my impulses and my desires and to say that they're yours. Project them onto you. Make you appear to be what my own desires are. So that's a game. That's a hustle. But back to it, this person named Bolin makes the point of saying that these attributes of Seth were transferred to Tahuti, and then Seth became identified with not a cosmic condition, but to a human struggle between populations. An invader type called the Hyksos, these so-called invading mulattoes, say it like it is, people who had many times been forced because the invading people had taken advantage of the family, killed off the daddy, raped the mother, and took the children of the mother as slaves and made them into their brainwashed slaves. But the children are still trying to gain daddy's acceptance, and daddy don't even care about it. He's just going to play on them and turn them out too. That game we see played time and time again. So that with this group invaded in, and then they're forced out in a war of liberation. Some say 75 years, some say 350, some say 500 years. In which, when the brothers came from the 17th dynasty, being led by a very famous sister named Teddy Cherie. Teddy Cherie is an elegant lady. She was the mother of Nefertari. But Teddy Cherie's husband, they rose up, and their children able to start the wars of liberation. And those brothers got so strong in the 18th dynasty, sisters got so strong, they chased those people all the way back to their home base, all the way back in northern Eurasia, and locked them up for 1,000 years minimum. Strong battles. But long story made short, please hear that the Eye of Horu is the statement of what Africans really are about. They said that there was a regenerated eye that could come on when a person had fought with their evil. So they had two different conditions. They had I'll give you an example, the educational system, which you already heard about. How many of you read George James' Stolen Legacy? I see a show of hands. Oh, most in this room. And so you've read in chapter 3 that in the education that there were 3 grades of students. The grade of neophyte, the grade of intelligence, and the grade of sons of light. And you've read that in a neophyte stage that you studied the laws of